Good afternoon. The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance, please stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Dr. A. Lincoln James, Jr. He is of Trinity Baptist Church in Richmond. And following the prayer, everyone will please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America by our very own Senate page, Sarah Timberlake of North Chesterfield.
Might every head be bowed. Eternal God, our Father, we come now in the power of your presence, because you are our beginning and our end. Our awareness of this eternal verity leads us to profound gratitude and thanksgiving. We praise you. We praise you for all the blessings of the past which bring us to this present moment. We thank you for what you have blessed our legislators and lawmakers to accomplish in spite of threats to our liberty. Many are the plans of this august body. Their hearts are filled with numerous agendas, schedules, lists of expectations, countless intentions. But now, O God, we lay all of our efforts before you, that your perfect purpose would prevail, that your divine design would be heard and heeded, that your will be done. We pray for a new unity in the face of the deep divisions among our lawmakers and even in the nation. Use this body to bring healing and unity to the hurting and divided communities across the length and breadth of this Commonwealth. We pray that you will order our steps and meet us with mercy this day as we seek your counsel and the excellency of your wisdom. We pray this prayer in the certainty of your holy name. Might the people of God say together, Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll. All present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Madam President. Senate Journal for Wednesday, February 9th, 2022.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 4.
Ayes 32, noes 4. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Good morning, Madam President.
Morning.
I now move that the clerk waive the reading of, or we waive the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates.
The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 2.
Ayes 35, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, Madam President.
Now comes the time in the morning hour, our favorite time, when we get to hear about our guests in our gallery. And we're so thankful that you're here to observe your government. And with that, Chair now calls on the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator may.
Thank you, Madam President. Today's invocation was given by the Reverend A. Lincoln James from Trinity Baptist Church, and unfortunately, he could not stay to hear the glowing introduction that I have of him, but he would be pleased to know that my second introduction today is of students, faculty, staff, and leadership from Virginia Union University, which was his alma mater. Virginia Union is a historic HBCU located right here in Richmond, one of the nation's oldest HBCUs, and its story is kind of like the story of the Finks rising from the ashes. Virginia Union rose from the ashes of Richmond post-Civil War at the site of the former Lumpkins slave jail and has gone on to become a world-renowned university that includes so many prominent alum. I would get in trouble if I tried to name them all. I will name a couple. Includes our former governor, Doug Wilder, many members, current and former, of the General Assembly and Congress. And they are joined today. The students some of the students are in the gallery. They have been joined today by their president, Dr. Hakeem Lucas, chair of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Franklin Richardson, and members of the staff. And I ask that you give these Panthers a warm Senate welcome.
Will you please rise? Good morning to you, and good morning again. And as we said before, in 1967, when Martin Luther King Jr. gave his speech to the high school, the junior high school in Philadelphia, just 6 months before he died, he said, "Doors are opening to you. Doors your mothers and fathers did not have open to them. Be prepared when those doors open. Thank you for preparing to walk through those doors and, in fact, to bust them down sometimes." So with that, senators, please give them the warm welcome of the Senate. Chair recognizes the junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Kiggins.
Madam President, I rise for purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, I have here today Ralph Long and Jacob Long with us from Virginia Beach. And Ralph and Jacob, they both live in my district. And Ralph is a 20-year Navy active duty Navy sailor, so we're very thankful for his service. And he's got his son Jacob here today. And Jacob not only is a sophomore at Princess Anne High School and also is a tuba player in their band, but Jacob, I remember the first time I knocked on their door in 2019, and we knock on lots and lots of doors, and And I talked to, I think it was his mom first, and she said, well, let me run in and get Jacob because he's the one that's been following your campaign, and he loves politics, and he'd be so honored to meet you. So it was wonderful, and it's always a great honor to have a young person who has an interest in local, state, any type of politics. So I applaud him for that interest, and I know that one of his hobbies is actually watching our floor sessions. So I know it's going to be a very exciting day for him to be here in person, and we're just honored to have both of them with us today. So please give them the warm welcome in the Virginia Senate.
We thank you for coming, and we're so glad that you want to be involved in your government. This is your government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And senators, let us give this young man and his father the warm welcome of the Senate. I now recognize the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move now that the Senate suspend their rules and grant the privileges of the floor to our special and distinguished guests.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the privileges of the floor granted to a distinguished person? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 0.
No, 0. The rules are suspended. The privileges of the floor are granted. The chair recognizes now the senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason, for the purpose of presenting the distinguished guest.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, on behalf of our Peninsula delegation, the senator from Hampton, the senator from James City County, the senior senator from Fairfax, and the body, it's my privilege to be a part of this celebration and this ceremony today for Paul Tribble. Each of you know the incredible service that he's given to his community, to his region, to this Commonwealth as an elected official. But we're here today, Madam President and members of the Senate, for his amazing leadership and work that's been done at Christopher Newport University. Madam President, stage right in the top of the gallery, you'll see the leaders from the Virginia Peninsula and the region that have come to honor him today. Anyone that knows Paul Tribble understands that family is the bedrock of everything that he does. His son Paul has his wife Britt with us today, but his wife, his best friend, and his partner, Rosemary, with him every step of the way. And Madam President, when you look at Christopher Newport, her fingerprints are on every, she has us at her fingertips. Her fingerprints on every building, her class, her grace, and her style, every building that's done there. So we can look at Christopher Newport and see the transformational leadership there. But Madam President, I want to do something I try not to do. I want to read you the very definition of transformational leadership. Defined as leadership's approach that causes change in individuals and social systems. In its ideal form, it creates valuable and positive change in the followers with the end goal of developing followers into leaders. Enacted in its authentic form, transformational leadership enhances the motivation, morale, and performance of followers through a variety of mechanisms. These include connecting the follower's sense of identity and self to the mission and the collective identity of the organization, being a role model for followers that inspire them, challenging followers to take greater ownership for their work, and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of followers so the leader can align followers with tasks that optimize their performance. Madam President and members, every student that has gone on the campus at Christopher Newport University has been the beneficiary of the transformational leadership of Paul Tribble and his family. And so, Madam President, at this moment, I'd like to yield to the senior senator from Fairfax.
Thank you very much, Madam President and other senators. I want to tell you a little story of when this all came about. I'm trying to remember, I think then, Paul, you were on the Board of Visitors, And they conducted a search, and not a lot of people, had heard of Christopher Newport. It was a very small college. And ultimately, the Board of Supervisors settled on Paul Tribble, President Tribble. And let me tell you, he's been a Commonwealth attorney, he's been a congressman, he's been a United States senator. But I thought to myself, geez, no experience as a college president, how's this going to work? I could not have been more wrong. I got to tell you, I've made some bad, decisions in my life, but this was one of the worst. And I can't tell you how great they've been. I have been here, as you could imagine, through the changing of a lot of college presidents in our higher education system. I can't think of a single one who has done more for their university or college than President Tribble and his wife Rosemary, acting as one great team. That school is now highly sought after by people from all over the state as their number one choice, and in fact from the Mid-Atlantic region. What they have done there is just utterly unbelievable, and they have turned that into one great institution of higher education. And we have so much, and they have so much to be proud of all they've accomplished. Thank you. And I can't thank you enough for all both of you have done. Okay. And now I think it's the turn of Senator Locke.
Colleagues, there's not a whole lot more I can add other than to say that the transformation of Christopher Newport University has been phenomenal and is certainly the direct result of Paul and Rosemary Tribble. And transforming the lives of young people is certainly a direct result of their hands. In the arts, in public policy, in transforming programs is certainly their work. And even more importantly, I can stand here and call Paul and Rosemary Tribble my friends. And that's the most important thing to me. So I will now turn it over to Senator Norman.
Rosemary and President Tribble, this is actually a historic day. For the first time on the floor of the Senate, Senator Saslaw admits that he made mistakes. So we certainly need to relish this day. I probably have known President Tribble longer than anyone in the chambers here. I first met Paul Tribble when he was a young Commonwealth attorney in downtown Essex, Virginia. I was a bumbling young lawyer, and he taught me professional humility at a very early age as he embarrassed me as I was representing individuals there in Essex. I've known Paul and Rosemary in many travels in life. Before Paul became president, I had the privilege of teaching in the accounting department for several years, teaching business law to aspiring CPAs. Interesting how history follows itself. It ended up that my youngest daughter, who graduated from the University of Virginia, she decided she wanted to be a CPA. And she, with her beady little eyes and nose, did a comparative analysis and decided not to go to the University of Virginia because Christopher Newport had a higher passage rate the first time on the CPA exam of any public college and university in Virginia. Very briefly, I enjoyed the Tribbles as a neighbor, and of course, I have known him as he has ascended to the presidency there at Christopher Newport. A lot has been said about Rosemary, and actually, without being disrespectful, I have thought of her in the terms of a co-presidency because she has been there with her vibrance and her vision. And certainly is one of the most enthusiastic and one of the bravest ladies I have ever met. And for that, I thank you. But it really is extraordinary, what has been accomplished. And I am very blessed to consider the Tribbles friends. And it is truly an honor to have them here on the floor of the Senate today.
Thank you, Madam President. Now, if the clerk would please read the resolution. Thank you, ma'am.
Senate Joint Resolution Number 90, commending the Honorable Paul S. Tribble, Jr. Whereas for almost 50 years, the Honorable Paul S. Tribble, Jr. has served the citizens of Virginia with integrity and excellence as an Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Commonwealth's Attorney of Essex County, United States Congressman, United States Senator, and President of Christopher Newport University. And whereas on January 1, 1996, Paul Tribble became the 5th president of Christopher Newport University, and his vision and leadership have led to the growth of one of America's preeminent public liberal arts universities. And whereas Paul Tribble envisioned the creation of a great university for America that cared about minds and hearts and that would inspire students to choose to live lives of meaning, consequence, and purpose, a life of significance, as it is now called at Christopher Newport University. And whereas during Paul Tribble's tenure, applications to Christopher Newport University have increased by 700%, the average GPA of entering students has soared from 2.6 to 3.8. The number of full-time students has increased to 5,000, and the institution's 4-year graduation rate is now one of the highest among all public colleges and universities in the United States. And whereas, with the strong support of the General Assembly, Christopher Newport University offers a beautiful campus, great teaching, a rich and rigorous academic curriculum in the liberal arts and sciences, and a marvelous sense of community where people speak and smile and support and encourage each other. And whereas Paul Tribble has emphasized the values of leadership, honor, and service in the life of Christopher Newport University through the President's Leadership Program, the Center for Community Engagement, and the Wasson Center for Civic Leadership, and through superb academic programs in leadership and American studies, and whereas Paul Tribble has profoundly contributed to the economic and cultural life of the Virginia Peninsula, Hampton Roads, and the Commonwealth through the creation of the Ferguson Center for the Performing Arts, the Mary M. Trogler Fine Arts Center, and the Christopher Newport University Center for Community Engagement, which enables students to perform over 100,000 hours of community service each year. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Delegates concurring, that the General Assembly hereby commend the Honorable Paul S. Tribble, Jr. for his outstanding service to all citizens of the Commonwealth, to the more than 25,000 graduates of Christopher Newport University during his long and distinguished tenure, and to the Virginians who will attend the institution in the future. And be it resolved further that the Clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to the Honorable Paul S. Tribble, Jr. as an expression of the General Assembly's admiration for his achievements on behalf of the Commonwealth and the Christopher Newport University community.
Mr. President, Madame, if you would please join me in the well. Afternoon to you. Good. This is our presentation to you. It's paper and all, but it means so much that you've given your life, really. And there are many, I'm sure, family times that you missed, both of you actually, on behalf of the Commonwealth, certainly, and on behalf of the university. And we thank your family for lending you to us. And we still hope to see good things from you. And thank you for all you've done to make Christopher Newport the university that it is today. Higher pass rate the first time around means a lot.
Double my GPA.
Yes.
We will always cherish this moment. And I'm honored to
to stand in the very heart of this a very precious place. And I thank each of you all for your leadership, and the blessing in my life has been the opportunities that I've been given to lead and serve in my community and my Commonwealth and my country, and all the wonderful, wonderful people who have believed in us and shared the dream that together we could make tomorrow a better day for all. So God bless this Commonwealth, and God bless this country. Thank you. Thank you. Amen.
The Senate will be at ease. Senate will come to order. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from James City County, Senator Norman. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam President. Do I rise for a purpose of introduction?
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam. I have two introductions that I would like to share with the Senate. Madam President, I would appreciate if you would extend a very warm welcome to a very close and dear friend of mine for many years, Sheriff Danny Diggs and his wife, Patty Diggs, who are up in the gallery. I have known the Diggs for many, many years. For the last 22 years, he has been the sheriff of York County and the city of Poquoson. He has spent a lifetime in law enforcement and has done a wonderful job with community involvement as well as law enforcement involvement in those communities. And he is blessed that Patty has stood beside him through every election that he has been through for sheriff and has been a wonderful partner with him. So if you would please extend a very warm welcome from the Senate of Virginia to Sheriff Danny Diggs and his wife, Patty Diggs.
Sheriff and Mrs. Diggs, oh no, stand, yes, remain standing. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for what you do to keep us safe. Mrs. Diggs, thank you for letting him be able to continue to serve us in this way, because we know that it's not a profession that anyone can do, as we've seen over the last few days. So thank you for all that you've done to keep our Commonwealth safe. And ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, please let us give them our warm regards. Senator Norman.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for purposes of a second introduction.
The senator may continue.
Thank you. Madam President, speaking of community involvement, we are very blessed to have in the gallery George Clark, who has been a community activist and involvement for many, many years. And he has focused a tremendous amount of his time and energies with the Virginia Alliance for Boys and Girls Clubs. Across Virginia, they are serving about 88,000 young people. And George has contributed to providing guidance and growth and maturation to these young ladies and young men. And if you would please extend a very warm welcome to George Clark.
Mr. Clark, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Thank you for helping the children. We're sorely needing of those who would speak into the lives of our children who absolutely need it. So thank you for all that you do. Senators, let us now give him the warm welcome of the Senate. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise for the purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Madam President, today we are pleased to be joined in the gallery by friends from the Virginia Maritime Association who are here to celebrate Port Day. The Virginia Maritime Association was organized in 1920 to promote, protect, and encourage international and domestic commerce through the ports of Virginia. With the membership of over 400 companies employing over 70,000 Virginians, the VMA continues to be the voice of the port for progressive development of our waterfront and Virginia's maritime industry. The VMA seeks to advocate and the continued growth of the port-related commercial activities and plays a significant leadership role to ensure that Virginia remains competitive as it relates to waterborne commerce. The Virginia Maritime Association is the primary advocate for the interests of the maritime industry, developing solutions and opportunities for its membership and the Virginia ports. Joining us in the gallery today, Madam President, are Whiting Chrisman, Harley Pierce, John Milligan, Ed O'Callaghan, and Will DeVue. Please join me in giving them and over 400 of their colleagues, 60 of their colleagues, visiting the Capitol today, the warm welcome of the Senate.
Gentlemen, we thank you for coming. We thank you for what you're doing for our Commonwealth, and we understand that you want to increase the domestic commerce here in Virginia, and we certainly need it. We might be able to get some business from LA's port. Not that we're in competition, but we are. But thank you so much for all you do. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them the warm welcome of the Senate. The chair recognizes the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for the purposes of an introduction, please.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Today in the gallery, we have some very special guests, and many times I invite people to come, and they actually take me up on it, and I love it. Today in the gallery, we have from Christiansburg, Kelly Van Dyke, Kelsey Wingfield, Dylan Wingfield, and Catherine Schultz. And they are all from Christiansburg, and they are just enjoying the day at the Capitol and shadowing me for the day. So it's great to have them here.
Ladies, thank you for coming. Thank you for observing us in action. Thank you for wanting to be part of what your government does. And senators, let us give them the warm welcome of their Senate. The chair now recognizes the senior senator from Chesapeake, gentleman, Mr. Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Oh, yes, it is. It's afternoon. Madam President, I don't have a green sheet here, but we have a surprise visit. In the gallery, we have former Congresswoman and former member of the House of Delegates, Thelma Drake. Thelma has also served as the Director of Public Rail and Transit for the Commonwealth of Virginia. She's accompanied by her husband, Ted, who is also gracing us with his presence. Now, one thing you may not know about Ted is that he's known as the master of the mandolin. He's really, really good. And Madam President, they're here for one reason, and that's to watch you in action. So I hope you will give them the very warmest welcome and welcome back of the Senate.
Madam Congresswoman and Mr. Drake, thank you for coming. And I know you're going to say that the body across the way is the best body.
Nah.
Nevertheless, we thank you for all that you have done in your service to the Commonwealth and in your continuing service to the city of Norfolk, your hometown, and for being my mentor so many, many years ago. And thank you, Ted, for all the license plates. And with that, senators, let us give them the warm welcome of the Senate. Chair recognizes again the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise again for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
And I apologize to my guests for missing them, but we also have today from Christiansburg, Shane Vaught, and his lovely wife, Alicia, is also here. She's spending the week with us this week, and she's invited a lot of guests here from Christiansburg again. They're all from the Second Monday Constitution Group in Christiansburg. So thank you, Madam President, if you could give them the warm welcome of the Senate. Thank you.
Good morning to you, and thank you for coming, and thank you for having the tenacity to hang around for a whole week. Senators, let us give them the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Hearing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, February 10th, 2022. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move excuse me, that the Senate bills on third reading, uncontested calendar, pages 1 through 7, that's Senate Bill 280 through 729, be placed on their final passage in a block. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
There are 16 bills in the block. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 7, Senate Bills 280 through 729, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are now before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Bill 280, Senate Bill 329, Senate Bill 338, Senate Bill 347, Senate Bill 377, Senate Bill 387, Senate Bill 428, Senate Bill 446, Senate Bill 589, Senate Bill 627, Senate Bill 633, Senate Bill 658, Senate Bill 660, Senate Bill 681, Senate Bill 699, Senate Bill 729.
The gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Madam President, can Senate Bill 347 come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 347 on page 2 comes out of the block and goes by for the day.
Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is, all bills except for Senate Bill 347 on page 2. All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
We have 13 bills before us in the block. Well, not in the block, in this particular part. Chair now calls on the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Senate Bill 104.
Thank you,
mandatory minimum sentences, elimination, modification of sentence to mandatory minimum term.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning to you. I'd ask that Senate Bill 104 be passed by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 104 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 393, Consumer Data Protection Act data deletion request.
Chair calls on the senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask that SB 393 go by for the day while we continue to work on an amendment.
Without objection, Senate Bill 393 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 15, Private Family Leave Insurance definition establishes as a class of insurance.
The gentlelady from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. I move that Senate Bill 15 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this bill does is it directs the State Corporation Commission, or the Bureau of Insurance, which is under the SCC, to allow private insurance companies to offer a family leave insurance plan. The context of that plan would talk about income replacement. The insurance companies can decide what the number of weeks might be or the percentage of income to be replaced. This bill is a result of a study that was approved by this body last year. Many stakeholders got together to figure out how we could enable an opportunity for a private family leave product. And the bill says that several categories have to be addressed. Certainly maternity leave, paternity leave would be one of them, the adoption of a child or the placement of a foster care child, and if a family member is ill and their immediate family member and there needs to be some care given, and also if you're a military official and you have to, you're called away for duty. So there's a House companion. This has enjoyed a lot of support, and I certainly hope that we can move this option forward. Thank you, Madam President. Again, I ask that this bill pass.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
I apologize. That light was on earlier. I didn't turn it off.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 15 pass? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 37, noes 2, Rule 36-1. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 85. Martinsville City of approval of voters before city can revert to town status sunset provision.
The gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Madam President, I now move that Senate Bill 85 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Senate, permit me to indulge in a little bit of my past and my history when I tell you that when I was a younger man, I used to visit the great city of Martinsville in the summers. I would come from Northern Virginia, where I lived at the time. Northern Virginia was growing. It was rural. Martinsville was the leader of the Industrial Revolution, one of the wealthiest cities in all of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it had a proud people, a strong people. I came there as even an older man when I was first as a lawyer, tried my first cases there. And then, just about after, when I started my legal career, the North American Free Trade Agreement was passed, and the federal government told the people of Martinsville, it'll be good for you. And then our jobs went overseas. Textile, tobacco manufacturing, furniture went overseas, which caused a brain drain, a population drain, that the great city of Martinsville has worked hard to turn the corner, and they have. Right now, they are at a crossroads to make the determination for their future, whether the great city of Martinsville shall revert to a town or remain one of the shining cities of the Commonwealth of Virginia. They don't do this because the city of Martinsville is broke. They're not broke. They don't do this because all the jobs have gone away and the population is depleted, because it hasn't. It's coming back. Our young men and women are coming back to the city of Martinsville's. Jobs are returning. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing is returning. Things are looking up. And in this majority city, they are proud of who they are, what they are as a city, and where they've come from in the struggles that they've had. They have never given in. They have never given up. And so now the city council has decided for itself, without input from the citizens of Martinsville, of that it should revert to a town. And reversion to a town would close our famous and wonderful school, the Martinsville Bulldogs, and all of that rich history and athletic success and academic success in our African American community will be gone. With little or no input from our communities, they have decided that's what they want to do. But the one thing, ladies and gentlemen, and Madam President, that they have not done is ask the people, the citizens of the city of Martinsville, what they want to do. In fact, in the only one hearing that they had, there were 29 people from the city of Martinsville that spoke against reversion. Only 3 were for it. Before you, ladies and gentlemen, you also have what I handed out and I ask that you consider. My good friend Naomi Hodge-Muse, who is the president of the Martinsville Henry NAACP, sits on the board of directors for the New College Institute. She's the one that came to me and said, help us keep our voice. Where the African American voice and the ability to determine their own directions in the city of Martinsville will be gone if they are consumed by Henry County. She has written a letter to that effect. For my friends on the other side of the aisle who may have doubts, the Martinsville Henry County Democrat Committee supports SB 85. People came to me who are the faith African American pastors, and they said that their congregations wanted the ability to determine for themselves their own fate and their own future. And so what this bill simply does is it says that this November, before the city of Martinsville can revert to a town, there must be a referendum held where the citizens, the voting members of the citizens of the city of Martinsville alone will vote as to the ultimate issue of reversion. If they vote after everybody has their say for reversion, then reversion, so it is. If they vote not to revert, then the great city of Martinsville remains. It is not for a government to decide, as I told you earlier, the fate of this great city of Southside, because every time the government has told us this will be great for you, it's not turned out that way. Let the people decide. It is their right in a free and democratic society. Give and empower them with the vote to determine for themselves their future. Read the very stirring letter from on page 3 from the reverends and the members of the Caucus of African American Clergy, Reverend Charles Whitfield. The reasons are there for and against. Let there be a fair and open debate, transparent, and let the citizens make the vote and let them decide their fate. And for those reasons, Madam President, I renew my motion that SB 85 pass. And I will say this in closing, Madam President. I need every vote because it's specific to Martinsville. There's also a 4-year sunset provision. This will go away. But they need this now. They've asked me to bring this to you, and it's passed in the House 87-13 already. Thank you, Madam President.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Member, I'd like to speak to the bill, Madam President.
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, I hope you will read this letter from the president of the NAACP. The problem is not reversion. The problem is contained in the 3rd paragraph. Historically, the black community is essentially ignored by the Henry County Board of Supervisors. This is a dispute between a white majority county and a minority majority city, a city that's fiscally stressed. A city that has gone before the Council of Local Governments, and they've already made a determination that reversion is the appropriate thing to occur. The gentleman from Franklin County is right. At one point, and are not too distant past, Henry County and Martinsville were the breadbasket of Virginia. That was where the tax revenue was created that fed much of the prosperity of the state. And they've fallen on hard times in recent years, and that's why reversion is the choice of City Council, which has been approved by the Council of Local Government. Let me tell you, reversion has occurred 3 times in our history. The city of Bedford reverted without a referenda. The city of South Boston reverted without a referenda. The city of Clifton Forge reverted, and they did have a referenda. Let me tell you about that. In the late 80s, there was a delegate named Bill Wilson who put in a Section 1 bill to require a referenda for the city of Clifton Forge if they ever reverted. Now, that was when discussions were just beginning. The distinction between that and this is that the referenda didn't occur until the year 2000. Then the constitutional officers, of course, were the people that were supporting the referendum in the first place. They wanted to put as many barriers as they could to the elimination of their jobs in place. And that was the purpose of the referendum. So 11 years after the referendum passed the General Assembly, the referendum was held, the people approved the referenda, and reversion occurred after a costly campaign, a lot of hurt feelings, and a waste of time. Now, the difference in this effort from the one in the late 80s is the negotiations are already underway between Martinsville and Henry County. This referenda is an 11.5-hour effort to delay reversion, which is inevitable, and further have us take up sides between the county and the city. This ought to be decided in the way that the law already provides. Reversion should be allowed to go forward, and a referendum is unnecessary. I hope you'll join me and put up a red light on this bill.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to SB 85.
The gentleman may continue.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want you to consider what just occurred. My good friend from Bath County has taken a position that it is best for the 5 elected officials to make that decision. And it is clear that from the gentleman from Franklin that he prefers that it remain a city. But what this bill does is it simply says, let the people decide. For every reason that the senator from Bath County said this should revert to a town, he may be perfectly correct. But let the citizens decide. And I would note that the gentleman from Franklin, Senator Stanley, didn't use his position as a sitting state senator for a charter change or to force it to remain a city, even though you can tell from his remarks that he would like it to remain a city. What he did and what he is saying and what this bill does, it simply says, let the citizens decide. And I think there's great merit to not only letting the citizens decide in a referendum, but then after that referendum is held, honor it. And that's what SB 85 does. I hope that people will put up a green light.
The gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And I hate to take opposition, but I have to agree with the gentleman from Bath. And I did ask the patron, why not tackle the underlying fundamentals of 14.2-400, which is the chapter that actually governs the reversions of cities and towns and the rest of the process. And well, in fact, this process is already laid out. This started years ago, but the latest reversion started back in 2019. So there's been agreement and MOUs hammered out between all the localities until the last moment they figured out they can use this as a stall tactic in December and put the brakes on it all. So there's underlying issues that the senator from Bath identified, which is the underlying trust issues and the fact that taxes will have to be raised in Henry County. That's what's really going on. That's really the underlying fundamental, Madam President. If we're going to tackle the issue, tackle the fundamental policy of 15.2, 4100. That's where it needs to be resolved, but not at the 11th hour. It's unfair to the process where Henry County has already approved an MOU. They've hammered out the issues, and now using that as the literal 11th hour stall tactics. It's not fair to the process. It's not fair to other jurisdictions going through it as well. If you're going to tackle this, tackle the underlying law, not as a temporary Band-Aid. Thank you, Madam President. I encourage the body to vote against it.
Returning to the patron, the gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to close just by saying I understand
the senator has the floor.
County. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. I understand what he means when he says the senator of Bath, but this is the city of Martinsville,
and its citizens should decide. Clifton Forge got the benefit of a referendum. Maybe it happened 10 years down the road. And he said, it cost a lot of money, and his exact quote, and it was a waste of time. Madam President, democracy is never a waste of time, especially when you're making such monumental decisions as this decision to change the core of what Martinsville is, from a city to a town. We have in our code referendums that if a town wants to become a city. But we don't have it in this area, and this gives Martinsville that specific right, this specific time. So if you have to vote to become a town and change into a city, why isn't the converse true as well? Henry County, this is not some ploy to delay. Henry County did not ask me, never talked to me about this bill. Had they asked me, I would not have done it. Would not have carried it. The faith-based community asked me. The activists asked me. Naomi Hodge-Muse asked me. All of the people I care so much about came to me and asked me, can you please give us a voice? Let us determine our own fate. And this is how I respond, because they asked, and they deserve it. Madam President, I will say this as I close. In 2006, this city council, this very Martinsville City Council, passed a resolution unanimously that promised the citizens of the city of Martinsville that they would not revert nor take a step towards reversion from a city to a town without a referendum of the voters in the city of Martinsville to be held first. They never retracted that promise. They never passed a resolution anymore that said, oh, we changed our mind. That is a promise owed to the people of the city of Martinsville, and they come to you today asking that that promise be fulfilled. Please, I beg of you, please vote for Senate Bill 85 for the people of the great city of Martinsville. And I thank you, Madam President. And I renew my motion that SB 85 pass.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 85 pass? All those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 8.
Ayes 32, noes 8. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 110, Juvenile Offenders Parole Eligibility.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Senate Bill 110 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of this body, Senate Bill 110 simply makes an individual who was a juvenile when he or she was sentenced eligible for parole after serving 30% of their time. Last year, you recall, I'm getting them confused. It could have been last year, the special session, Senator Marsden's bill that allowed an individual to be a juvenile who'd been sentenced as a juvenile to be eligible for parole after serving 20 years of their sentence. That's fine if you've gotten a 40 or 50-year sentence. But if you've gotten a 19-year sentence, you still got to serve the 20 years. You get a 21-year sentence, you still serve 20 years. This bill makes the person eligible after serving just under one-third of the sentence. And if I can trespass on your time for just a couple of minutes, I'll give you an example. Blair Dacey was convicted of second-degree murder in Colonial Heights, a conservative city in central Virginia. And it was a situation where Blair was 17 years old, was captain of her soccer team, straight-A student, going to college, never gotten in trouble before. She kicked an individual, he fell back, he hit his head, and sadly, he passed. after several days in the hospital. She was pardoned earlier this year. But every one of the co-defendants received no time at all, or the Commonwealth decided not to prosecute. Every single one of them. There were 4. She went to trial. She was convicted by the jury, and a judge who was no longer on the bench, substitute judge, gave her 30 years with 10 years suspended for a net sentence of 20 years. She went to jail. She went on and got her, finished #1 in her class when she graduated from community college, then started taking courses at Ohio University where she was straight A student. She was on every board that they have at Goochland and Fluvanna. She started a program where they train animals, dogs, to become care pets. You could not have she could not have done anything more to distinguish herself and make her worthy of parole. The governor pardoned her after serving 7 years. What this bill does is make a juvenile who was committed the crime as a juvenile, sentenced as a juvenile, eligible for parole after serving 30% of their sentence. Madam President, members of this body, I'd ask that I would renew my motion that Senate Bill 110 pass.
The gentleman from Rockingham County, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, I rise to speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I hope that we will defeat this bill. I will point out that last year when Senator Marsden's bill, Senator from Western Fairfax's bill, was passed, it was a product of multiple years' work on his behalf to address the question of what kind of grace should we provide for juveniles who are tried as adults for committing the worst of the worst crimes. The Supreme Court says that you've got to give them a reasonable opportunity to get out of prison. And the result of that process was this bill, this law that passed a Democrat body down the hall and a Democrat body in here, saying 20 years is the threshold. Now, let me talk to you for just a second about this Blair Dacey case that was raised. There's another side to that. There was a young man named Rusty Mack who was brutally beaten by a gang of, I think it was 4 people, who beat him, kicked him, and Blair Dacey, apparently, according to news stories, was the one who delivered the fatal kick to the head that killed this young man. Now, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who are tried as adults, as juveniles. But they are typically the worst of the worst. These are brutal crimes that are committed. And we have said after 20 years, you're going to be eligible for parole. And if for some reason somebody believes that they have not gotten a fair shake, that their sentence was unduly harsh, or that they deserve some additional kind of grace, we've got a process in place right now that was utilized by the last governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia to grant a pardon or to grant clemency, to get somebody out of prison who deserves to be let go from prison. I don't know anything about the circumstances following the commission of that crime, and I can't second guess the decision that was made by Governor Northam to pardon this woman who delivered the fatal kick to Rusty Mack. But I can tell you that we should not, as a matter of course, say that somebody who's been convicted as a juvenile for an adult offense, who's been sentenced to 21 years in prison, that they ought to be eligible for parole after 7 years. And that's what this bill does. Let's stick with the legislation that was hard fought and hammered out. We all know what's going to happen to this. I'm looking out for my friend from the city of Richmond. I want to save him a little bit of time later in session. This bill is a bad idea, and it sets back the cause of criminal justice in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it is in disregard for the rights of victims in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
I had not planned to speak on this, although I have been a supporter and a co-patron of this. My good friend from Rockingham County just said he didn't know what had happened with the woman who was the incarcerated person who was pardoned. And that's exactly the problem here, is that we throw people away, we lose the key, and we forget about them. And we don't pay attention to any sort of change or progress that they may make in their lives. I've taken the time to go and visit some of these incarcerated people. And while some people have been released over the past year to the good grace of Governor Northam, a lot of good people who have changed, especially those who were teenagers when they committed their crimes, have turned into good adults. We know that there is science that says, and we have just heard it the other day when we were talking about another bill, that teenagers do crazy things and they do stupid things and they're not thinking because their brains are not fully formed. What my good friend from Richmond, the junior senator from Richmond, is trying to do is to realize that, to say, okay, we've thrown away the key to a lot of people. Let's give them another opportunity to have someone look at their case. This is giving opportunity for the parole board to give a decision. It's not saying that we're setting people free out of the blue, but let's not just forget and ignore that these are human beings who are living their lives and trying to do better. Those that I have met are trying to make the world a better place now, and they certainly are terribly grieved at all of the things that happened in the past, and they have tried to redeem themselves. As a daughter of a minister and somebody who studied theology, I have looked at the Bible, and my interpretation of the theology is that redemption and forgiveness and helping people move forward is the gospel. And on that, I thank my friend from Richmond for carrying this bill.
The chair again recognizes the patron, the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. When I listened to
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. When I listened to my friend from Rockingham, I took some notes, and he said very clearly that 4 people brutally beat Rusty Mack, that they kicked him unmercifully, and I'm simply going to say that the gentleman is horribly mistaken. There were 4 juveniles involved. I represented one of them. There were 4 juveniles involved, and the young man, Rusty Mack, was married to Ashley Mack. Very young. They got married very young. They split up, and Rusty Mack called for Ashley to come over there, and the 4 went over there. And when they got there, Rusty was horribly drunk. He came out, and he started fighting. And he fought with one boy. They got into fisticuffs. And then he got up, and then he came after Ashley, and the gentleman can smile, but these are the facts that happened. And you know what she did? Ashley kicked him back. He fell down on his butt, and he got back up. Then he moved towards Blair, and Blair, one time, kicked him. He fell down and hit his head. He was in the hospital for 17 days. There was no gang. There was no mob. There was no savagery involved whatsoever. The Commonwealth attorney in Colonial Heights did not want to prosecute the case. Special prosecutor came in, and she wanted to prosecute. First boy was acquitted. Second person was the charges. They dismissed it. My client, they said, would you plead guilty to assault? She did the exact same thing that Ashley did, and we said no. And then they dismissed that charge. And then, if this case is as worse as the senator from Rockingham said, let me tell you this. How bad could it be? The Commonwealth attorney offered her 1 year. Let me repeat that. The Commonwealth's attorney offered Blair Dacey 1 year, and she turned it down. Then the case went to trial, and it certainly went south from her. Substitute judge ended up giving her 30 years with 10 years suspended. Do you know who was the most shocked person in the courtroom? The Commonwealth's attorney from Colonial Heights. The defense attorneys that had represented her. Shocked the conscience. Got 20 years for a crime that she turned down 1 year for. She was 17. There was no savagery involved. There was no somebody beaten unmercifully. It didn't happen. It was sad and it was tragic, and we do feel for Rusty Mack. But I'm tired of hearing every time we discuss something like this, it's the worst of the worst. Every single time. Well, that wasn't the worst of the worst. It was a de minimis crime. Should not have gotten more than 1 year. That's what the CA offered. She turned it down, and she got 20 years. Do we want to really let somebody spend 20 years in prison for a crime that even the Commonwealth attorney said was only worth 1 year? She spent 7 times that, and she distinguished herself when she was in prison, did everything that she could, and now she's out. This bill simply says that a juvenile who doesn't have the developed mind that we all agree is eligible after serving 30% of their time. Would you please put up a green light for Senate Bill 110?
The question is, shall Senate Bill 110 pass? All those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 137, Discretionary Sentencing Guidelines, Written Explanation Appeal.
The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I move that the bill pass. And
Yes,
by
sir.
way of explanation,
Senator has the floor.
Madam President, Senate Bill 137, since we're now talking about sentencing, gives the defendant a right to appeal a judge's sentence prospectively after July 1, 2022. In the case where a defendant objects to the calculation of the discretionary sentencing guidelines by the judge. That can be appealed, and the judge is to give a written explanation that adequately explains the sentence imposed, and the failure to do so could be reversible error. So this gives the defendant, for the first time, the right to appeal a sentence. Right now, you have no right at all. In fact, the law is very clear. You cannot appeal a sentence. This gives a defendant who objects to the calculation by the judge the right to appeal and question, and the judge has to give an adequate explanation of the sentence. And if that's the case, then if the judge does not, it could be reversible error. With that explanation, I move the bill pass.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 137 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 20.
The Senate will be at ease. I would like to have the patron of the bill and the senator from Rockingham. The Senate will come to order on Senate Bill 137. Ayes 20, noes 20. The chair votes no. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 407, disability insurance, disability arising out of childbirth.
The chair recognizes the senator from Enrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speak to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam Chairman, this is a bill that dovetails with the one we passed earlier from the gentlelady from Arlington. It is a bill we actually passed 3 years ago. And it's a bill that seeks to define for people who elect to purchase disability insurance and have maternity as part of that coverage, that for the purposes of recovering from the medical event of childbirth, that the disability period after that should be considered 12 weeks and not 6 to 8. The product that is associated with the gentlelady from Arlington's bill is an additional insurance product that has not been introduced in Virginia before but is in other states, but it would require purchasing of an additional product or a waiver, and not all businesses that already have disability will necessarily have FLMA as well. When we passed this bill, we thought it already solved this problem, and for some providers and insurers in Virginia, it did, and they've been offering the 12 weeks, and they've noted it's not a significant increase in price. But for others, they have been requiring doctors demonstrate a disability in addition to just giving birth in order for a woman to have that 12 weeks. And so I want to point out that this does not affect businesses at all. Businesses can determine, obviously, if they have more than 50 members, they have to give 12 weeks of FLMA, but less than that, this doesn't affect the businesses. This is just that the products are apples to apples. So if somebody does not have the FMLA product that we've already passed, they will still have 12 weeks of insurance coverage, payroll coverage for childbirth, after if they have only disability. So, Madam President, I think this is something we should have a consistent policy on, despite what product you are getting, and I hope it'll be the pleasure of the body to support the bill.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 407 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 411, controlled substances, possession, penalties.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County. Am I looking at the right? Sorry. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that Senate Bill 411 pass, speaking to that measure.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, Senate Bill 411 reduces the penalty for possession of a Scheduled 1 or Schedule 2 controlled substance from a Class 5 felony to a Class 1 misdemeanor. And it also reduces the penalty for a Schedule 4 or 5 controlled substance from a Class 2 misdemeanor to Class 3 misdemeanor. Here is the reason for doing that. Many of folks who are convicted of possession of a modicum of Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance are tagged with that felony conviction for the rest of their lives. It affects job possibilities, housing, employment, and this bill simply reduces it, as many other states have done, from a Class 5 felony to a Class 1 misdemeanor, which allows up to 12 months in jail. And there are a couple of points that I would like to emphasize. Number one, when an individual does not have a felony conviction, it puts them in a better position to apply for and get a job. Number two, it sends a message that we want to treat the addiction, help them recover from that instead of incarcerate. And with greater employment, less incarceration, we will have less recidivism. For those reasons, Madam President, I'd ask that the body pass Senate Bill 411.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Rockingham County, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, I'd ask if the junior senator from the city of Richmond would yield for a question.
Will the senator yield?
I yield.
Senator from Rockingham County.
Madam President, my question to the gentleman is, are there, under his legislation, are there any drugs, the possession of which would remain a felony were his bill to pass?
Senator Morrissey.
No. The short answer is no. Schedule I drugs generally are referred to heroin, LSD, peyote. Schedule II drugs include opioids, hydromorphine, methadone, Oxycontin, fentanyl, morphine.
Madam President, further question.
Further question, Senator?
I yield.
The gentleman from Rockingham County.
Madam President, I would ask the gentleman from Richmond, how much heroin could somebody possess under this bill and qualify for misdemeanor treatment? And I guess how much LSD as well?
Senator Morrissey.
The answer to that question is any amount that a fact finder did not consider for distribution purposes. The gentleman knows very well, as a practitioner in this area, that it's up to the jury or the fact finder to determine if the amount possessed was for personal use as opposed for distribution. To be specific, there is no exact amount.
Madam President, I thank the gentleman.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from James City, Senator Norman. The question is, shall Senate Bill 411 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The bill fails.
Madam Chair, Madam President.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Augusta rise?
On Senate Bill 407, having voted on the prevailing side before we leave this page whereby the bill was passed, I would ask that we reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the motion be reconsidered by which Senate Bill 407 passed? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Oh, I'm sorry, it is a recorded vote. We will record this vote. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. Again, the senator from Enrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. Having already explained the bill, I move that it pass.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 407 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 5.
Ayes 35, noes 5. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 411. Senate Bill 440, unlawful hazing, civil and criminal liability.
The gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass. And speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As we know, a few weeks ago we passed a bill that changed the education requirements around hazing because I have a constituent, Adam Oakes, who was a 19-year-old student who was found dead nearly a year ago in a house. The morning after a Delta Chi fraternity party, he had been hazed and was forced to drink basically 40 shots of Jack Daniels whiskey. And our anti-hazing laws in our code haven't been updated since 2014. And so with his father and his cousin, Courtney White, we've been working together for the better part of the year to create a bill that would work in Virginia, worked with some local attorneys and our DLS staff members here to make sure that it fit our code to try to save lives and prevent this atrocity from happening again. So the bill changed. Originally, there was a felony. It changed a little bit in the committee process. The provisions of the subsection shall not preclude prosecution under the statute to allow for both hazing and felonies such as manslaughter. It gives immunity from arrest or prosecution for involuntary manslaughter or hazing if and only if emergency medical attention is sought. And that's a really important part because the night that Adam died, there wasn't anybody who called the police, who called 911, who called any sort of person for help. And then the third piece is that the Commonwealth's attorneys would have new tools to enforce the reporting requirements. And it is my hope and the hope of the Oakes family that if we will pass this bill today and we publicize this new immunity provision, that people who have knowledge that hazing is being planned or is underway will call and help to save a life. And I ask that you report this bill today. Thank you.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 440 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 10.
Ayes 30, noes 10. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 447, wage or salary history inquiries, prohibited civil penalty.
Again, the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. Could we pass this by for the day, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 447 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 523, Portsmouth City of, amending charter, changes to process for recall of elective officers.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President and members of the committee of the chamber, Senate Bill 523, currently the Portsmouth City Charter allows a petition signed by 30% of the Portsmouth electors who voted in the last gubernatorial election to be filed with the circuit court to demand a successor through special election or recall. No specific grounds are required. Let me say that again. No specific grounds are required to recall an officer. This permissive recall provision has become a political tool, resulting in Portsmouth having several recalls over the last few years. The amendment to this provision requires specific grounds, patterns based upon state code in order to recall an elected official. The amendment also allows a judge to hold a hearing and take evidence to determine the sufficiency of the recall petition. And with that explanation, Madam President, I move that the bill pass.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 523 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 30, noes 3. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 538, non-payment of wages, defensive contractor.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Senate Bill 538 addresses the wage theft bills that have been addressed in the General Assembly the past 2 years. What this bill does now is attempts to restore the general contractor, subcontractor, subcontractor liability issues. The bill provides that the subcontractor would certify under oath that it's paid its employees. And it goes on down the line to the subcontractor, each one certifying under oath that they have paid their employees. This allows the general contractor to identify the bad actor much more quickly. So when we find out that one of the subcontractors has not paid the employees, we can find out because they will not have provided the certification under oath. If, however, someone lies and provides a certification under oath, they are subject to penalties for fraud. So this will discourage lying under oath that you've paid your employees when you have really not, and it will allow everyone involved in the transaction to identify who has not paid their employees. The general contractor is still on the hook, ultimately, if they cannot put it on the sub or subcontractor. So I'd ask that the bill pass.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, Madam President.
Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. So looking under the calendar, under this bill, as it came out of the Judiciary Committee, could the senator identify the last name under the nays column for me?
Senator Peake.
Where are we?
So the first committee to act, Madam President, to clarify the question for the gentleman, the last name under the nays column, could the senator identify that for me?
It says Peake. That is inaccurate. Madam President.
Senator Peake.
I'm sure that they meant to put Senator Pike, but or McPeak would be Senator McPeak most likely.
Madam President, thank you for the clarity in terms
Senator
of the senator's
McPike.
recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 538 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 664, a bill relating to minor victims of sex trafficking services.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speak to the bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. This was a bill that was brought to me by a constituent, a young person that really found what I thought was an effective idea, which is finding that those young people, which is to say minors under the age of 18 who are picked up on prostitution, are not charged criminally, but rather are referred to the Department of Social Services and receive appropriate treatment. We had a lot of testimony in committee. This is generally what most prosecutors do. There's no hard and fast rule in the code, and I think this is, again, it's really just a value statement, which I hope we will adopt. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Rockingham County, Senator Obenshain.
Madam President, speaking of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, members of the Senate, I am extremely sympathetic to what the senator from Fairfax City is doing. Few people in either body have carried more legislation to try and crack down on human trafficking than the senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Howell, and I over the years. And this issue comes up regularly. It has been looked at in the Crime Commission. It has been looked at in committee. And nobody disagrees with the proposition that we do not want to prosecute these children who are engaged in commercial sex trade. These children are typically being marketed. But this deprives the Commonwealth, deprives local police, local prosecutors of tools that they use to help divert these children. And, there's one prosecutor who routinely comes and speaks to our committees, and he has been at the forefront of trying to rescue these children involved in human trafficking and stop these predators who are taking advantage of children. And I want to read to you what this prosecutor sent to me about this piece of legislation. Well, I'd like to. I just think I lost it. I lost it. I would have read to you what this prosecutor sent to me, but what the gist of it is that he and his county work very hard to protect these children. Thank you. And says that, in my experience, what this bill does is says that these children are to be diverted to the local Department of Social Services. And this prosecutor says, in my experience, local social service agencies lack both the desire and the resources to adequately assist juvenile trafficking victims. And we've heard this for years and years, and that is a serious problem. It says, too often I've experienced social services workers who want to, as quickly as they can, just return the child to the family since there aren't funds for placements. The difficulty with this response is twofold. One, almost all of these girls who are being trafficked have run into a negative situation in their homes. The risk exists that the child is being returned to a situation in which she's being victimized. The second difficulty is that at times the families are involved in the trafficking. Furthermore, this deprives local prosecutors and law enforcement of the ability to exercise some leverage over these children to force them to accept services. Many of these children don't view themselves as victims for one reason or another. They view this as maybe a family. But I'm telling you, when a 15-year-old is being trafficked for commercial sex, they are victims. And I respectfully submit there's not a prosecutor in Virginia who wants to prosecute any of these kids. But sometimes you need that leverage in order to make sure that they are adequately diverted and receive the services that they need. I hope that there's a day in which this approach will work. But I don't believe we're there just yet.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. If no one else wishes to speak, I'd like to speak.
The senator has the floor.
And I'm a little bit outmanned here trying to rebut because I don't do criminal practice. I really don't do juvenile practice at all. I am a father of 3 young ladies, and I'm aware that sometimes circumstances put people in a position that nobody wants to be in. You know, I just, by listening to my colleague's argument, he talked about tools that divert, and you need that leverage. Again, these are teenagers. I mean, 13, 14, 15 years old, and the tools are basically incarcerating them. Now, I understand it's a juvenile home, but still, that's incarceration. And I just feel like, again, we've made a lot of strides in this body about trying to move people outside of incarceration and put them in an alternative setting. I understand what the gentleman's talking about. It's a value decision, folks. I just feel like the stronger side is in favor of voting for this bill. Thank you.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 664 pass? Those in favor of passage will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 6.
Ayes 34, no 6. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, House bill on second reading.
Madam President.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Prince William rise?
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we reconsider the vote which Senate Bill 137 on page 10 failed to report.
The question is, shall the passage of Senate Bill 137 be reconsidered? Those in favor of the vote will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The vote is reconsidered. The gentleman from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Madam President, I now ask that the bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 137 goes by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, House bill on second reading.
The chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all the House bills on second reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, pages 13 and 14, that House Bill 386 through 195, that the rules be suspended and the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
There are three bills. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 13 through 14, House Bill 386 through House Bill 195 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senior Senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I now move that the said House bills be passed by for the day.
The question is, shall the House bills now on the uncontested and regular calendars now on their third reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
The senior senator, again from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendars, it's pages 14 through 32, Senate Bill 3 through 756, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
There are 34 bills in the block. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 14 through 32, Senate Bill 3 through 756 be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will now read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 3, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate adopt the Senate Privileges and Elections Committee substitute to Senate Bill 3.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 27, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
Gentleman from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 28, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 46, reported from the Committee on Education and Health, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. Adopt the amendments.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 87, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
The gentleman from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Madam President. Before we adopt the substitute, can that bill please go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 87, page 16, goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 88, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 90, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 103, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 185.
Madam President, my apologies.
The senator from Franklin County.
Thank you. My apologies. I was not paying attention. I was paying attention to the senator from Roanoke County. Can Senate Bill 88 come out of the block and Senate Bill 90 come out of the block and go by for the day? Please.
Without objection, Senate Bills 88 and 90 on pages 16 and 17, respectively, are out of the block and by for the day.
Senate Bill 103, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 185, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 186, reported from the Committee on Transportation with a substitute.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute from the Transportation Committee be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 187, reported for the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
The gentleman from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 188, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 215, reported from the Committee on Transportation and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
The gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. Move that the committee amendment be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 231, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the Senate agree to the Finance and Appropriations Committee substitute to Senate Bill 231.
All right, Senator, what we're going to do you want to reject the committee amendments from the Committee on Education and Health first? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right.
I'm not used to everyone wanting to amend my bills. Ma'am, Madam President, I'd like, with the recommendation that they be rejected, I move that the Senate agree to the amendments from the Committee on Education and Health to Senate Bill 231.
So we'll take those up one at a time. First, we're going to reject the committee amendments. So you will make that decision. With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the committee amendments for Senate Bill 231 out of the Committee on Education and Health be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The committee amendments are rejected. Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Madam President, now I would like to move that the Senate agree to the Finance and Appropriations Committee substitute to Senate Bill 231.
The question is, shall the substitute now be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Thank you, Madam President.
Senate Bill 268, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute. And there is a floor substitute.
All right. The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, with the recommendation that the substitute be rejected from the Committee on Education and Health, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute from the Committee on Education and Health be agreed to? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. The gentlewoman from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that it be rejected, I move that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
With the recommendation also that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes have it. That substitute is also rejected. Again, the gentlelady from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I waive the reading of the floor substitute to Senate Bill 268.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute for Senate Bill 268 be waived? Those in favor of the motion will record their votes. Will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is before us. The senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the substitute.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. What this substitute does is it parallels language that we all saw in the various committees regarding a emergency custody order where the magistrate could prioritize using an alternative transportation provider if a provider was available and the provider agreed. We took that same language and paralleled it when, in fact, a magistrate gives a temporary detention order and the designation on that order happens to be a state mental health facility. The state could then use an alternative transportation provider as well. This is very important because the alternative transportation provider, which would be a non-law enforcement person would be able to pick up the individual at the place of where the CSB or wherever the evaluation was done and a determination was requested by a healthcare provider for the TDO. The alternative transportation provider could pick up the person, take them to the designation where they would be for the 72 hours under a TDO and wait there until either a bed is available or another healthcare provider is available. This would be an incredibly important benefit for many parties, not just freeing up time of law enforcement. A trained alternative transportation provider would provide a different environment for an individual. And then when you get to an actual state institution, you don't have a uniformed person waiting in a waiting room. You have a non-uniformed person, which again changes the dynamic and really emphasizes the need for treatment and care. We spent a lot of time working on this. There were various stakeholders at the table. There is now peace in the Valley. We also have a companion bill now in the House, which will mirror this bill. I would like to take a moment to thank the senator from Augusta County and the senator from Bath County. Each senator contributed mightily to the substitute before you. It is a very good bill. I sincerely hope that we adopt the substitute. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the floor substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 279, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendment.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteffe.
Good afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
I move the committee amendment on Senate Bill 279.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 344, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments.
The gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
I'm sorry, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendments from the Committee on Commerce and Labor be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments from Commerce and Labor be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to. Senator Barker.
Yes, Madam President, I move that the committee amendments from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 345, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 358, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 436, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with an amendment, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Yes, Madam President, I move that we adopt the committee amendment from the Committee on Education and Health.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Senate Bill 442, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. Senate Bill 4...
Madam Chair.
Senator from Northwestern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry to interrupt. I'd like that to go by for the day, please.
Without question, Senate Bill 442, page 25, goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 461, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Loudoun, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 514, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute, and there is a floor substitute that's being copied at this time. So,
Madam President, I've asked that that go by temporarily.
Without objection, Senate Bill 514 will actually, Senator, come out of the block to be worked on.
Senate Bill 577, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 579, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with the substitute.
The gentleman from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 593, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Madam President, I move that the committee amendments be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 595, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 625, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentlewoman from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 641, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendment, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I'd ask that the amendment from the Committee on Education and Health be adopted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Bill 651, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute, and there are two floor amendments.
The senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel. The senator from Fauquier.
Sorry, thank you, Madam President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Madam President, I also have a floor amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to waive the reading of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The reading is waived. The gentleman from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. You'll note that there was no controversy in the bill. We had a work group, and the makeup of the work group was supposed to reflect one representative from the Commissioner of the Revenue instead of two, and that needed to be corrected in this amendment, as well as another change. So with both of those being somewhat technical and one substantive in nature, I would move the adoption of the floor amendment.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is adopted.
Senate Bill 663, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations. Senate Bill 677, reported From the Committee on Finance and Appropriations, Senate Bill 692, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson. Microphone, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Yes, ma'am. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Yes, ma'am.
This is in a block, sir.
Oh.
Senate Bill 756, reported from the Committee on Agriculture and Conservation with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Madam President, I want to do something. There is no substitute. There is a sub. Move the committee substitute. Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. Substitute. Move.
The question is, shall the substitute for Senate Bill 756 be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I move that the bill
Sir,
be...
it's on second reading in the block. It's in the block.
Oh, it's in the block. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll go back to sleep now. Thank you.
Senator, we're still in the block. I'm going to read the rest, and we're just going to move them and then call on you later for the next round. Yes. Right. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed and advanced to their third reading? That is, all bills except for Senate Bills 87 and 88 on page 16, Senate Bill 90 on page 17, Senate Bill 442 on page 25, and Senate Bill 514 on page 26. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed and advanced to their third reading. Chair now calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills now on third reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 14 through 32, that's Senate Bills 3 through 756, that the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third reading of the titles of the bills be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. 4/5 vote. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The bills are now before the Senate on their final passage. Chair now calls again on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills now on third reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 14 through 32, Senate Bill 3 through 756, be placed on their final passage in a block. And any senator desiring to move a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 14 through 32, Senate Bills 3 through 76, but without the bills that we had spoken about, 87, 88, 90, 442, and 514, be in their final passage in the block, with the understanding again that Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the remaining bills in the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. We will go back to page 14, and now the clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 3, Senate Bill 27, Senate Bill 28, Senate Bill 46, Senate Bill 103, Senate Bill 185, Senate Bill 186, Senate Bill 187, Senate Bill 188, Senate Bill 215, Senate Bill 231, Senate Bill 268, Senate Bill 279, Senate Bill 344, Senate Bill 345, Senate Bill 358, Senate Bill 436, Senate Bill 461, Senate Bill 577, Senate Bill 579, Senate Bill 593, Senate Bill 595, Senate Bill 625, Senate Bill 641, Senate Bill 651, Senate Bill 663, Senate Bill 677, Senate Bill 692, Senate Bill 756.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam President. Can Senate Bill 625 on page 30 please come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 625 on page. There is not a 625 on page 30.
On
Page 29. Oh. Without objection, Senate Bill 625 on page 29 comes out of the block and by for the day. The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? That is, all bills except for Senate Bill 625 on page 29. All in favor of passage of the bills will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Returning to page 26, Senate Bill 514, reported, reported from the Committee on the Judiciary with a substitute, from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute, and there is a floor substitute.
The gentleman
Prince William.
Yes, I know, but it's Thurville's bill. Anyway,
Thank you,
gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'd move, with the recommendation that the substitute be rejected, I move the substitute be approved.
Okay, one at a time. We'll take those up. With the
Judiciary.
The Senate will be at ease for just a minute. I was on the wrong page. The question is, with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the substitute from the Committee on the Judiciary be agreed to? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes have it. The substitute is rejected. The gentleman again from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. And with the recommendation that the substitute be rejected, I move the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriation be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations be rejected? With that recommendation that it be rejected, all in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The noes have it. The substitute is also rejected. Again, the senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to waive the reading of the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the substitute is waived. The gentleman from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. Move the adoption of the floor substitute. Speaking to the motion briefly.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We caught a couple of technical corrections that we wanted to make sure to incorporate as represented in finance. Those are now represented in this in terms of feedback from the administration and the agency heads, Madam President. And so with that, I move the adoption of the floor substitute.
The question is, should the floor substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted. Senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third read.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading. Bye for the day. Does the senator wish for it to be voted upon today? Or bye for the day?
We can take it by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 514 goes by for the day.
Page 32, regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 565, natural gas, biogas, and other gas sources of energy, definitions, energy conservation. Reported from the Committee on The floor amendments have been adopted by the Senate from yesterday, and there are two more floor amendments.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. Can we waive reading? I'd move to waive reading of the floor amendments.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendments be waived? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The floor amendment reading is waived. The gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move the floor amendments and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The first floor amendment is basically identical to one you adopted yesterday, but in a different part of the bill. It's a technical edit that the clerk's staff up at the desk caught, which I greatly appreciate. The second floor amendment is an enactment clause that I've had drafted, and I've run by all the stakeholders to the bill, and they don't have any objection to it, but it basically asks the DEQ to look at putting together a work group to see if it's possible to even have a methane reduction goal in the Commonwealth. That was something that was requested by some of the environmental organizations, but the feasibility of it is really questionable. So we're going to put together this work group to see what's possible. It'll report back in about a year and in time for the 2024 session. And that's all it does. I'm not aware of any opposition to the floor amendment. As I said, I circulated it to all the stakeholders who everybody heard from in committee, and nobody has an objection to it. And I would ask that we would adopt the floor amendment. We can debate the full bill tomorrow.
The question is, shall the floor amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendments are agreed to.
Madam President, Soroville.
The gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Soroville.
I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill now be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 732, Climate Resilience Localities Comprehensive Plan to consider strategies to address.
The senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 40, Assisted Living Facilities, Involuntary Discharge Safeguards for Residents, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill. Your microphone.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to the committee substitute.
Did you want to reject
Yes,
the committee?
ma'am.
Which one did you want to reject? Okay. I believe you wanted to reject the Rehabilitation and Social Services substitute.
You're exactly right. That's exactly what I want to do.
Question is,
I don't see that here.
with the recommendation that it be rejected, shall the committee substitute for Rehabilitation and Social Services be agreed to? All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The substitute is rejected. Again, the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Madam President. Now, I ask that the bill be engrossed and passed through third reading.
All right. You're going to accept the substitute.
I thought I did. Yes, ma'am. Please.
All right. The question is, shall...
I ask you to accept the substitute from the Finance Committee.
Shall the substitute from the Finance and Appropriations Committee be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The gentleman from Northern Chesapeake.
Thank you, Madam President. Now, I ask that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 219, Virginia Employment Commission, Administrative Reforms, Reporting Requirements, Electronic Submissions, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute, and there is a floor substitute.
The gentlelady from Northern Fairfax County, no. I'm ahead of myself.
Prince William.
The gentleman from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation the substitute from the Committee of Finance and Appropriations be rejected, I move the substitute be agreed to.
So we'll take those up one at a time. The question is, shall the substitute from the Committee on Finance Appropriations be agreed to with the recommendation that they be rejected? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The substitute is rejected. Senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to waive the reading of the floor substitute.
The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The reading of the substitute is waived. Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the adoption of the floor substitute, and briefly speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. This incorporates also recommendations coming out of the Senate Finance and Appropriations, incorporating recommendations from the administration, and appreciate their collaboration through the project. Also, making sure that we have federal conformity to what we're saying in this important reform bill of the Virginia Employment Compensation Commission, Madam President, and move the adoption.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The floor amendment is adopted. Again, the senator from Prince William.
Thank you, Madam President. I move be engrossed and advanced to its third read.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 219 now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 251. Northern Virginia Transportation Authority funds for pedestrian and bicyclist projects. Reported from the Committee on Local Government with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Madam President. I would move this bill that needs to be retitled in light of what it really is. Move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 354, James River Watershed Timeline for Compliance with Regulations of Certain Combined Sewer Overflow Outfalls. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentleman from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. Though I disagree with them, I would move that we agree to the substitute from Finance.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The gentleman from King George.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 370, Elections, Local Electoral Boards and General Registrars to perform certain risk-limiting audits, etc. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Loudoun, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The gentleman from King George. The gentleman from Loudoun, Senator Bell. Engrossed in advance.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 405, Health Insurance Coverage for Prosthetic Devices. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendments and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriation with an amendment.
The gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the adoption of the amendments from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
The question is, shall the committee amendment on Commerce and Labor be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is agreed to. The gentleman from Southern Fairfax County.
Madam President, I move that we adopt the committee amendment from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is agreed to. Senator Barker.
Madam President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 429, Health Insurance Coverage, DBHDS and VSP, Development of Mental Health and Public Safety Mobile Applications. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
Gentlelady from Enrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that we accept the amendments, accept the substitute, I move the substitute from Education and Health.
The question is, shall the substitute from Education and Health Committee be agreed to? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move the amendments from Finance.
The question is, shall the committee amendments from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendments are agreed to. Gentlelady again from Enrico.
Thank you, Madam President. I now move that we engross this bill and advance it to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 441, Correctional Facilities State Fees. Reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendment, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation, I guess we approve both, right?
No, we're going to reject.
The Rehab and Social Services Amendment?
You're going to reject the Rehab and Social Services?
With the recommendation that we reject the Rehab and Social Services Amendment, I move the committee amendment.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, question is, shall the committee amendments from Rehab and Social Services be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The committee amendment is rejected.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
President.
Boysko.
Thank you, Madam President. With the recommendation that we approve the Finance and Appropriations substitute, I move the substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute from Finance and Appropriations be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Enrico rise? Again, the gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 457, Dogs, Breeding Dogs for Certain Research Prohibited Penalty. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
The gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County, Senator Boysko.
Madam President, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The gentlelady from northwestern Fairfax County.
Madam President, in order to stay with the rest of the dog bills, I move that we pass the bill by for the day.
All right. Without objection, Senate Bill 547 be passed by for the day.
Senate Bill 482, Tribal Nations Consultation with Federally Recognized Permits and Review with Potential Impacts. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentlelady from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
I move the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 495, Elections, Removal of Officers, Recall Elections, Petition for Recall. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 500, Investor-Owned Water and Sewer Utilities Rate-Making Proceedings. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with an amendment.
The senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Madam Chair, I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted. Again, the senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Madam Chair, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 513. Data center fixtures are taxed as part of the real property where they are located, etc. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The senator from Prince William, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third read.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 524. Payment of prevailing wage, certified payroll penalties. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that this bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 534, Consumer Data Protection Act, enforcement abolishes Consumer Privacy Fund. Reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
The gentleman
with a substitute.
Gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 537, trees, replacement and conservation during development process, powers of local government. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
The gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 581, correctional facilities fees. Reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute, and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with a substitute.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, with the recommendation that the substitute from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services be rejected, I now move for the adoption of the substitute.
With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the substitute from Rehabilitation and Social Services be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The substitute is rejected. Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I now move that the substitute from the Committee on Finance and Appropriation be adopted.
The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is adopted. The junior senator from Richmond City.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I now move that Senate Bill 581 be engrossed and moved along to its final constitutional reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 657, Air Pollution Control Board and State Water Control Board, transfer of authority. Reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
Gentleman from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Senator Stewart.
Then, Madam President, I'd ask that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 657 goes by for the day.
Senate Bill 683, Sales and Use Tax Media-Related Exemptions, reported from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendments.
The gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The amendment is agreed to. The senator from Western Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 707, Wildlife Corridor Grant Fund established, reported for the Committee on Finance and Appropriations.
Gentleman from Western Fairfax County, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 744, Virginia Elections Commission created report, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute and from the Committee on Finance and Appropriations with amendment.
The gentlelady from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The substitute is agreed to. Gentlelady from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the committee amendments be adopted.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The committee amendment is adopted. Senator from Fauquier.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill now be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
The gentleman from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested regular calendar, pages 44 through 57, Senate Bill 17 through 767, that the rules be suspended, the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
There are 28 bills in this section. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 44 through 57, Senate Bill 17 through 767, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Chair now calls again on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
I now move that those said bills go by for the day.
Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on their second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Page 57, regular calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on first reading. Senate Joint Resolution 1, proposing an amendment to Section 1 of Article 2 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to qualifications of voters and the right to vote, persons not entitled to vote. Senate Joint Resolution 5, proposing an amendment to Section 15-A of Article 1 of the Constitution of Virginia relating to marriage, repeal of same-sex marriage, prohibition, affirmative right to marry. Memorial resolutions.
Chair calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw. Memorial.
Madam President, I move that the memorial resolutions on page 58 through 59, that's HAR 167 through SR 17, be considered in a block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution.
The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on pages 58 through 59, House Joint Resolution 167 through Senate Resolution 17, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 167, celebrating the life of Richard Markoff. House Joint Resolution 168, celebrating the life of Sharon Jones. House Joint Resolution 171, celebrating the life of firefighter Christopher George Griffin. House Joint Resolution 174, celebrating the life of Victor J. Kim. House Joint Resolution 177, celebrating the life of John Kevin Griffin. House Joint Resolution 178, celebrating the life of Nicole DeMasters Benderly. House Joint Resolution 185, celebrating the life of Mildred Fayette Odom Graves. Senate Joint Resolution 73, celebrating the life of the Honorable Harry Russell Potts, Jr.
The gentlelady from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Madam President. Could that SJR 73 please come out of the block?
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 73 is out of the block.
Senate Joint Resolution 91, celebrating the life of the Honorable John Howson Rust, Jr.
Madam President.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Could Senate Joint Resolution 91 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 91 is out of the block.
Senate Joint Resolution 93, celebrating the life of William Franklin LaVecchia. Senate Joint Resolution 96, celebrating the life of Karaman Kellam. Senate Joint Resolution 100, celebrating the life of Sally Lamb. Senate Resolution 17, celebrating the life of Jamil Jalal Abed.
Removing out of the block Senate Joint Resolution 73 and 91. The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions, please rise. The resolutions are agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 73, celebrating the life of the Honorable Harry Russell Potts, Jr.
Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Madam President. Having previously attempted to give Senator Potts the best memorial that I possibly could on this Senate floor, I will not do so again, though I know Russ would love it if we did it again. I will just tell you that it is with great sadness that our district sees a legend in our community pass. And with that, I would ask that the resolution pass.
The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolution, please rise. The resolution is agreed to. The gentleman from
John Howson Russ, Jr.
The gentleman from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass and speak to the measure.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Jack Rust was an iconic figure in the town of Fairfax, in Fairfax County, and indeed down here in Richmond. He grew up in the town of Fairfax. His grandfather was a state senator. His father was the mayor. And Jack, when he graduated from UVA Law School, joined his father in law practice and was elected delegate in his early 30s in the I believe it was 1979. Served through the mid-'80s and then was defeated. It was sort of a period when the county was reorganizing their districts, and he then launched a highly successful private law practice, was sort of known as somebody that knew everybody. And when Bob Harris, who the incumbent delegate for the 37th House District, died in 1996, you saw signs all over Fairfax City that said, Jack is back. And he was elected and then reelected and was a leader in the House of Delegates, made a run for the Speaker, and then lost the seat in 2001, not due to the quality of his opponent, but rather due to the changing demographics of the district. And that alone would have been a very impressive life. But he was one of these people that he actually had a second act that was more impressive. He became the Commissioner of Counts in Fairfax County, and he really, every trust, estate issue, fiduciary issue went across his desk. This is a county of 1.1 million people, and he was a legend in the courthouse. His word was gold with the judges. He was a ubiquitous presence in the courthouse. I would see him every Friday when I went in on Motions Day. He also was down here, and I hesitate to call him a lobbyist because he wrote some of the most complicated legislation, usually patroned by Senator Saslaw, and I would try and read it and try and figure out what was going on. Yes, that's right. And I had to use every single one of my little brain pops to try and keep up with Jack Rust, and trust me, I usually came out on the short end of that transaction. I had tremendous respect for him. He also was a father of 3 men and a grandfather of 10. Now, there was a time in my life when the name Jack Rust probably sent shivers down my spine. We were bitter rivals, which is ironic because our family tree traces back to the 1920s. And if you know anything about the town of Fairfax, the Moores and McCandlishes and the Rusts have been battling since, a long time. I'll just leave it at that. And I would, to think that I'd be standing here and giving his epitaph is a little bit chilling. But I will tell you something, for someone that was such a bitter rival, he became a trusted friend and advisor. And, I talked with his son, Bobby, a few weeks ago, and I knew Jack was near the end. And he actually said something that he said, you turned out a lot better in the Senate than Dad thought you would. And I'm going to take that as a compliment. The bottom line is I've been in a lot of elections in my life. I've tried cases all over the state, all over the country. I've never met a smarter man than Jack Rust. And he was also a very good person. He was a warm and generous person, and therefore I will be moving this resolution.
The resolution will be agreed to. Oh, Senator Suter. Senator Suterline. The resolution will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolution, please rise. The resolution is agreed to.
Resolutions.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that the commending resolutions on page 60 through 62, HJR 153 through SR 18, be considered in the block by a voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution to be removed from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
The question is, shall the commending resolutions on pages 60 through 62, House Joint Resolution 150 through Senate Resolution 18, be considered in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will now read the number of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolutions 153, 169, 170, 172, 173, 175, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, Senate Joint Resolutions 92, 94, 95, 97, 98, 99, 101, 102, Senate Resolution 18.
The question is, shall the resolutions be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Those opposed, no. The resolutions are agreed to.
Supplemental Calendar Number 1. Uncontested Calendar, Senate Bills on first reading.
Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, that's pages 1 through 7, Senate Bill 60 through SB 741, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
From the supplemental calendar number 1, the question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 1 through 7, Senate Bill 60 through Senate Bill 741 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Chair now calls on the senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Saslaw.
Madam President, I now move that those said bills go by for the day.
The question is, shall the bills now go by for the day? All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The bills are now by for the day.
Madam President, I'd inquire of the clerk, does that complete the calendar?
Yes, sir.
You sure?
I'm positive.
All right. Awesome.
Unless you want to do it again.
Oh, sure.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate?
Yes, Madam President.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a brief point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, earlier this week, the Senate rejected Governor Youngkin's initial nominee of Andrew Wheeler to be Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources. And we've made it clear that he's not the right choice to serve in this essential role. And Article 5, Section 11 of the Constitution of Virginia specifically states that no person shall enter upon or continue in office after the General Assembly refuses to confirm them. While in the Trump administration, we know Mr. Wheeler dismantled key environmental and public health protections, cut the EPA budget, wiped out Chesapeake Bay funding, fired EPA workers, rolled back Obama-era environmental policies, and even proposed historic cuts at the EPA. Mr. Wheeler's continued service as Secretary will have a considerable impact on our environment, which is something which is a reason we did not confirm his nomination. I recognize that we still have several weeks before the end of the legislative session, but this side of the aisle will not change its position. As a result, we hope that Governor Youngkin will make the right decision and request Mr. Wheeler's resignation so that the Commonwealth can move forward with its business. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Madam President, in honor of Black History Month, I'd like to share with the body some of the doings and accomplishments of a great Richmonder, John Mitchell Jr. Earlier this week, I had an opportunity to present a bill to the Transportation Committee in order to get a license plate bill passed, and I made some reference to John Mitchell and some of the senators that did not have an opportunity to hear it. I wanted you to hear about this great individual. In the 1882, the paper, then known as the Richmond Planet, was founded by 13 former slaves, Richmond slaves, and it was edited in its first year by a gentleman by the name of Edmund Archer Randolph, who was renowned in his own right. He was actually the very first African-American to graduate from Yale Law School. But just 2 years later, John Mitchell Jr. succeeded Randolph and became the publisher for the next 45 years of this venerable paper, the Richmond Planet. He was renowned not just for being a publisher, but he was a politician. He was a community activist. He was somebody that not only gave his heart and soul to the paper, but to the community. By 1904, the Richmond Planet had reached a huge circulation, and it quickly gained a reputation, not just in Richmond, but in the South, for being a staunch defender of the African-American community and a voice against racial injustice. The Planet not only covered national and international news, but it focused on subjects which you might expect included segregation, the depredations of the Ku Klux Klan, voting rights, and the scourge of lynching. It wasn't unusual if Mitchell heard about a lynching that was about to occur to get his handgun, his sidearm, and go to the location where the lynching was going to take place. The Planet continued on, and Mitchell rose to considerable esteem in the Richmond community. He became involved in banking circles and also became a member of the Republican Party and served on the Richmond City Council for 8 years. Thereafter, he repeatedly positioned the Daily Planet as that newspaper of the South that must be listened to. Later on, he achieved prominence in other areas, and he died, sadly, in poverty in 1929. The Daily Planet was the forerunner to the Afro magazine, and later the editor of the Richmond Free Press, which is still in existence, regularly referred to the tremendous accomplishments of John Mitchell. So during this period of Black History Month, I wanted to share these wonderful accomplishments of this great Richmonder and Virginian, John Mitchell Jr.
Does any other senator wish to be recognized? Hearing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Thursday, February 10th, the Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment, Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 4:30 p.m., Committee Room B, Pocahontas. Tomorrow, Friday, February 11th, the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will not meet. Rehabilitation and Social Services will not meet. This is a change. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Capital Outlay will meet at 8 a.m., Subcommittee Room 1, 5th floor, Pocahontas. Senators Deeds, Norman, Howes, Saslaw, Hanger, and Locke. The Committee on Rules will meet at 8:30 a.m., Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. This is a time change. 8:30 a.m., Senate Room 3, Rules Committee. Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 1 in the Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2 in the Capitol. Oh, and one very important thing. There are only 5 days to order your chocolates and flowers for Valentine's Day.
The chair now calls on the President pro tempore, the Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I want everybody to listen carefully. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 10 o'clock tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate stands adjourned until 10 o'clock tomorrow.